Good morning and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. This is Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist. I'm here along with my best friend, my colleague, my business partner for the several past years, if that's the way of saying it, offering you a program today about codependency, addictions, trauma, and impact of all of that on relationships. And welcome,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Jaffe.
Thank you very much.
You're
Happy to
very
be
welcome.
here.
Happy to be here and happy Hanukkah.
Oh, today is Hanukkah?
But Hanukkah has started already.
It has?
It has.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, I'm not very religious, although I am Jewish. So I don't really keep track of that, although when my kids were young, I did.
Yes.
But now I don't. But anyway, yeah, we were just talking to our
Technical director.
Technical director, thank you. Our technical director,
Jesse.
And welcome, Jesse. Glad that you're with us and helping us.
Yes.
And he was talking about looking forward to Christmas. And I was saying that, you know, growing up Jewish, I felt like I didn't get the benefit of the tradition that I thought was a great tradition, which is the Christmas tree. And of course, the decorations that the family does usually as a family. And I thought that was a wonderful thing to bring the family together and to celebrate life and to celebrate family relationships.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it's wonderful that we are celebrating both holidays at the same time.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. And then Jesse was saying that he isn't very religious, but he does believe, I think he didn't say in love, but I think that's what he believes in love and connection.
Yes.
And sharing. And so that's what we're here to talk about all the time. We're here on Thursday with Dr. Rashidian's
human sexuality.
Human sexuality seminar about love, about sexuality, about relationships, and how to make those all work for us. And today we talk about addictions, and one of the primary addictions that we've been talking about for quite a while is the addiction of codependence, but most people don't understand, or maybe have heard the term codependence, don't really understand it, don't know what it is. So we've been talking a lot about that over the past couple of months.
And there is so much more to talk about codependency because, as you and I know very well, it's the biggest addiction that human being has been exposed to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Across history and currently, and it will be in the future as well. Hopefully that with the information and awareness that we bring to people, people can realize the signs and symptoms of it and then act on it to stop it and to do something for it.
Right. So, exactly. And so there's so many aspects of codependence, and basically, just to sum up, codependence is a state where your authentic true self is not available because you have been brought up in a situation where there has been a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, often a lot of trauma, and as a result, your authentic true self has gone into hiding because the authentic true self, one of the things that we say at the beginning of our shows, we didn't say it today, but is that we're born into the world with some qualities
right.
And of our authentic true self, and one of them is honesty.
Right.
And so the honesty is something that we all feel really good about when we're honest. and when we're forthright, because we're expressing our truth. We're expressing our truth, which is our feelings and our beliefs and our ideas, which all have to do with our perspectives on what's going on, both inside of us and outside of us. And when we can share our perspectives with each other, we get a more full picture of what is actually going on.
Yeah, usually, actually, we use the term honestly. We say, honestly, I don't know anything about this,
Yes.
or honestly, I don't know how this is going to work out, or honestly, this may not be, something for you, we say that, we say honestly. And then when we use the honestly, that's basically we are talking from our own honest, true self perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we all have that honestly, character inside of us.
We have that part of us
Yes.
that wants to be honest.
Yeah.
We all, however, when we are growing up in a situation where we are feeling unsafe or we're feeling afraid, I guess both unsafe and afraid, to be honest, because if we're honest about what we see and what we think and what we feel, we get punished, we get yelled at, we get privileges taken away.
There are many consequences.
Yeah, and in some cases we get scolded. In some cases we get called names. In some cases we get hit. And so, of course, we don't want that. So we learn how to not be honest. We call it lying. And depending upon how unsafe we are, will determine how much we have to lie. And since our whole world revolves around our family when we're young, I'm saying young meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, pretty much revolves around the family. And those are the years when we're the most vulnerable in terms of not understanding what's going on, but feeling everything very strongly. We internalize those feelings, and we sort of develop a life script within us that tells us what the rules are. And if the rules that we learn are it's not safe to express your truth, then we say, okay, lying is necessary. And if we start to lie, and that becomes the thing that we do over and over again, then we start to lose touch with the fact that we even prefer to tell the truth. We just normalize lying within us, and then we lie and don't think anything's wrong with it. We just automatically lie because the lie we think serves us. So codependence is telling the lie that we think is going to be acceptable to the other person. And we lose our core sense of who we are as a result.
Exactly. So is there an example that we can provide for this?
Yeah, I'm going to say some politicians, I won't name names,
right,
but some politicians say lies openly and brazenly, and when they're called on it and said, well, but this isn't true, they don't respond. They just move on to the next line.
The next line,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So and so that's one example. Another example is people who are trying to take advantage of other people in lawsuits. I was told recently of one of my clients is a general contractor, and one of his workers cut his hand during the work. It wasn't a very bad cut, but he had to get a couple of stitches, and then he went to an attorney and is suing my client for damages that really are not actual damages. But because he's claiming it, it has to be taken seriously. And my client then, of course, is concerned about his workman's comp and raising prices and all of that.
Yes.
And because he's claiming that there's a loss of sensation in his hand, which the cut really wasn't deep enough to sever any of the nerves. It's very doubtful that that happened. But he's claiming that, and nobody can actually prove otherwise. He may prevail. So we lie in order to be greedy, in order to take advantage of other people. And of course, we lie consistently in order to protect ourselves.
And we call it white lie.
And we call it, well, sometimes we call it a white lie.
Yeah.
Usually we say white lies are to protect others. And sometimes they are. And I'm not going to say that there's never occasion when lying is okay, because I'm not a big believer in all or nothing. I think that as human beings, we face all kinds of situations. And I can say, since I'm Jewish, that had I been living in Germany at the time of Hitler, and somebody walked up to me and said, "Are you Jewish?" and I knew that, and I knew that if I said yes, I would be arrested or thrown into a concentration camp, I would have lied.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would have lied. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so, and so that's the way that is. So what we're going to be talking about today is the process of communicating information from our authentic true self and taking responsibility for our responses. When we talk to another person and the other person is listening, they're listening through their own filter. Everything that I'm saying to that person is being filtered through that person's unique perspective on themselves and on life. And so when I say something to them, they filter it, and what they do is they either react or they respond. What's the difference? Well, reacting is relegates our when we react to someone, we do it without considering all the implications of what we're doing. We just have what we would say an automatic reaction. It's not actually automatic. It actually stems from our subconscious, but it's automatic in the sense that it hasn't been thoroughly thought about.
Mm-hmm.
And so people come into the office and they're often arguing, couples, and they're arguing, and when I say to them is, you are listening, and when you're listening to the other person, what you're doing is you're listening to them to either react or to respond. And so as you're listening to them, are you thinking, how am I going to respond to this? Or are you thinking to yourself, what is this person really saying to me? And so we're going to talk about that, and when I'm going to come back from the break, because this is very important.
Yes.
This is a lot of where miscommunication, hurt feelings, and anger start.
Exactly. So more of this amazing conversation and discussion right after our commercial break. See you soon.
See you soon.
Commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. This is Dr. Mitra, and along with Dr. Robert, we're offering you a program on codependency, addictions, trauma, and all impacting relationships. And our today topic on specific codependency criteria is honesty.
Well, yeah, honesty, and communicate, and how do we communicate with another person?
Right.
And what I was saying before the break is when we're talking to someone, it's important, I think, to recognize that as you're the receiver, as you're listening to the other person share what's going on or share their ideas, are you listening to respond, or are you listening to understand?
To understand what the other person is conveying in
exactly
their
what the other person is trying to convey.
Whether they are angry, whether they're smiling, whether they are, however attitude comes with that conversation.
Yeah, there's two aspects to all communication. One is the content, and the other is what we would call the meta communication.
Right.
And the content can be about anything. It can be about skydiving. It can be about taking a trip. It can be about
codependency.
About codependency. It can be about anything, any topic. The billions of topics that we have as human beings. So that's the content, and then the meta communication or the meta content is about the feelings that they're expressing as they're talking to you. And if you're listening to understand, you're listening to understand at those two levels. You're trying to understand what they're talking about as far as content, and you're also trying to understand what they're expressing in terms of the meta communication or the feelings. Feelings are communicated through voice tone, through facial expression, through body language, and of course through the words that are chosen, and also especially feelings are communicated through the energy that you're feeling from that person. And if you just comment on the topic or the content part of it, you're missing half the communication. And when we're talking about relationships, intimate relationships between partners, friendships, people that we're close to, family, it's really important that we pay attention to the meta content, even more so than when we're talking to acquaintances, because the meta content or the feelings are sort of the meat and potatoes of the communication. And so what happens if I'm listening and I'm listening only to respond and not to understand? Then I'm taking your feelings, your feelings, your everything that you're communicating, running it through my computer to see whether I agree or don't agree. And if you say one word in your communication that I don't agree with, I may get stuck on that one word, miss the rest of the communication because I'm perhaps waiting patiently until you're done, and so that I can talk and then tell you how I think you're wrong because you said that one word.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
So what
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we see this description in majority of couple therapy sessions that we have. Right.
We see that, yes.
We see that. I mean, couples come in, and even as they talk to each other here, we see that meta communication doesn't allow the listeners, or I mean, they switch roles to be, the person who talks and the listeners. They just, that role, switches back and forth so quickly because they're trying to be responsive to each other, right? Or they don't want to be responsive to each other. And primarily they are responsive to each other in a defensive attitude, right? And half of the time they don't even hear everything that one has said, or the other one never gets a chance to say what they want to say.
Right.
Because of the, the meta communication factors and the interruption that, happens as a result of that. And because of those missing words and the, the lack of listening and understanding the meta communication, many of the messages are lost.
Correct.
Many of the meaningful messages are lost.
Correct.
And all they see is the anger, all they see is the frustration, all they see is the humiliation, and everything else that's been exchanged in that communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So the fact that we listen often to respond means that we're really listening to see whether we agree or disagree. Excuse me, I misspoke. When we listen and we're listening to not to understand, but just to agree or disagree, then we're reactive.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
And
but I think what you said first also had said the same thing, but this one was more clear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what do we need to do? We need to understand not only what the person is saying, but also why they're saying it. That somehow seems to get lost. All we usually end up doing is listening to agree or disagree. And I think that's created so many problems in the country, especially in the past several years.
Yes.
Where we don't really hear the other person out because there's an expression, my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts.
Yes.
Right? So we've already got an idea that the other person is not going to say something that we agree with. So we're already standing in a defensive posture with them. And when we are defensive, the other person feels like we're aggressive.
Or offensive.
Or, yeah, when I'm offensive to you, you usually will get offensive back to me.
Right.
And so what we want to do is, rather than focus on the right and wrong, is to focus on the understanding of why you're saying what you're saying. And the more that I can understand why you're saying it, the more I can consider your ideas and your beliefs seriously, because I know where you're coming from.
Right.
Rather than just putting it out as this is the way things are. No, this is the way I see them, and let me tell you why. So when we hear a story from someone about their life story, I was listening to can't remember her name, but a black woman that was just that just got elected to Congress, and she was saying, I relate to what it's like to be out of work.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I relate to what it's like to not know if I'm going to be eating tomorrow. She said, and I bring that into Congress with me, because I now am a voice that where I'm speaking from the authority of, I know what it's like. Other people may imagine what it's like, but I know what it's like.
Yes.
And so
I've been there, done that, experienced it, felt it.
Exactly. And so everybody has their unique stories about so many things in their life. And if we start to become curious about their story and curious about why they feel that way, our communication effectiveness increases 1,000-fold immediately.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's what I wanted to say about communication. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today is a phenomenon that we know in psychology as projective identification.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Projective identification all by itself is probably the single most important thing that people can understand when it comes to sharing their thoughts and ideas and feelings. Because what projective identification means is that I've shared a part of myself with you, and you have taken what I've shared and judged it based on your feelings about whether what I've said is right or wrong. I'm going to read something from this book that I've been touting for a long time called Codependence, Healing the Human Condition by Charles Whitfield. So, projective identification begins with one, when I unconsciously relate to another person by sharing a part of my inner life with them. This sharing may include any feeling, need, wish, or expectation or idea that I may want to extend, give, or connect, or heal to or with you, or about which I may want to be affirmed. Whatever message I send to you may be mostly about me, but what you do with that will be related to your inner life and your ability to respond. So based on that, you may respond by sending me a message, and this return message may project whatever you think, perceive, and experience that I originally send to you, and my perception of what you sent to me, which is what I take in or experience from you in return. Which means that I may take in what you have said as being about me rather than about you.
Right.
And when I take it, and then if I take it and I take it in and I say, oh, this is about me, and I don't like what I'm hearing, then I start to get angry and defensive, as though you have the power to tell me negative things about me, and then I have to feel bad about it.
And then how many times across a day do we repeat this cycle?
We repeat it over and over and over and over and over. We keep repeating it.
Right.
Yeah. As though the other person has the power to tell me that there's something wrong with me.
Yes.
See?
Right.
Now, if the other person said, listen, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you, I can listen to that and I can hear it, and I can choose to say, oh my goodness, they think there's something wrong with me, and I don't think there's something wrong with me. And so then what am I going to do? I'm going to get defensive and I'm going to say, no, there's something wrong with you. Now we're in an argument.
Yes.
Right? Rather than, oh, this is what you think is wrong with me. Well, tell me more. Because all you can offer me is your ideas and your beliefs.
Right.
Your beliefs can't have any power over me unless I buy into them.
Right. I have a couple that I'm working with right now, and then the male partner tells me that his wife, orders him to do things, and he feels like he's a butler.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, if he's not happy about doing the things that his wife is asking him to do, why doesn't he just say so, right?
Right.
And then he says that, well, then you don't know the World War III is going to start, and she's going to do this, she's going to react like that, she's going to get angry, she's going to name call, and all of this. And then I told her, you're talking as though she has all that power. You're talking as though she's so powerful, and you're such a victim in this relationship.
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't want to see that. He's still not at a place to see that it is him allowing all that negativity to become a part of him.
Right. Other people have power over us to the extent that we give them that power. However, there's like I was saying earlier about there's always exceptions. However, if you in fact are in a power position, such as you're the parent and you have power over this 5-year-old child, because the 5-year-old child can't survive without you, okay? Then the 5-year-old child is going to react as though you do have power, and you have to be aware that you do have power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And how do you use that power? And this extension has also been to the extent of employer-employee, right?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's also been used in all kinds of power situations with husband and wife, right? And if the husband is misusing his power, and he is the sole breadwinner, and he says, you know, if you don't do what I want, I'm not gonna buy this, or I'm not gonna pay for this for you. So then he's in a power position. And so there's all sorts of situations where people are in power positions over other people. And then what? Then what? And so that's what we're going to be talking about in our next segment.
Right.
Is how do you respond to somebody who is in a power position and using their power over you, and can you still be your authentic true self in that situation?
And I think this is such an important part of our discussion, because people want to know how to get out of the situation where they feel that they are being dominated and they have no way out of it.
Right.
So more of this right after our commercial break. See you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program. We're talking about, the projective identification. And then how to overcome difficulties of that.
Right.
So we were talking about how to overcome it.
Yes. So what do you do when you are in a position where the other person has power over you, such as employer, employee, right? There's really nothing that you can do when you're a child. When you're a child, you're pretty. What we do as children is we figure out ways to survive in negative situations, and we use our creative abilities to do that. And everybody figures out a way how to get through it. But what about as an adult? So as an adult, we were saying that we give power to the other person when we feel as though we can't stand up for ourselves. So what do you do if you are an employee and your employer is treating you unfairly, or your employer is taking advantage of you in some way? And what do you do if you are a spouse and the other person is the breadwinner and using money as a way of trying to control you, right? Some people feel that sex in a relationship is used to control them, and that's accurate. Some people do use their sexuality to control other people. And so the key, of course, to all of this has to do with self-esteem. Mm-hmm. If your self-esteem is such that you believe that you are still like a child, meaning that you are dependent on this other person and that you have no other options, then you are going to stay in that relationship and continue to give up your authentic true self in order to maintain the relationship and the goodies that you're getting from that relationship. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of clients. They're both in the film industry. And one client has stayed in the film industry in the same position for many, many years. The other person started off in that position, but has expanded themselves and has moved up. And what's the difference between the two? It's just what I'm saying. The one person who has stayed in the same position, it wasn't that she didn't want to move up, but she was afraid that if she started to move up, she might fail at the next position, right? And so she knew that she could succeed in the position she was in, and so she decided to stay in that position. She now doesn't have the same freedom. She now doesn't make the same money. She now doesn't have the same prestige, but she has chosen that route because her fear has kept her locked in.
Exactly. Right.
And so if your fear keeps you locked in, and again, this is as an adult, this is not as a child, because as a child you don't really have the option. But as an adult, if your fear is keeping you locked in, then you need to recognize that you do have fear, and find a way to start reducing and eliminating the fear. Psychotherapy is a great way of starting that process. If you don't want to do psychotherapy, if you start researching it on the internet, you'll find tons of books and CDs and courses that will help you to deal with your fears. But
Right.
that has to do a lot with your self-esteem and self-worth.
Exactly. I remember, during, my earlier years, I was employed, and I did face at least a couple of very difficult employers.
Uh-huh.
And then I remember that in one of them, I just quit my job because I felt like there was no way for me to overcome the difficulty. And
Yes.
then, I thought that my boss was not going to understand and everything. On the second one, I confronted my boss and I got fired.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then I said, well, what happened? I was honest about what was going on and all of that. So, and then I did have another one that I was able to eventually, work out the difficulties and the differences and all of this. But overall, it's a very tough situation to be as an employee. Especially when you feel like you're going to lose your paycheck and you're going to lose your income, and then what, and then whether you can get a reference from this employer for the next job and all of this. And
Right.
it's a very challenging position to be in. And then within the marriage and within relationships, that's even feels, I believe, even more challenging.
Yes.
When you have to overcome, what's going on, and then face each other and tell your truth and be honest with each other.
Right.
And then especially this is becoming more challenging when the other spouse, the partner, is not at the same maturity level that one is, than the other one is. So how do you deal with that? So that's why, couples therapy is very much recommended. And then also self-esteem issues that, see what's holding you back and what are you afraid of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I myself, I've been there, I have done that.
Right. And what I'm going to say is, you gave a couple of examples of jobs that you were at that didn't work out, and yet years later, here you sit.
Yes.
Right. And so people have fears that, of disaster, and they don't realize that we're all much, much stronger than we think we are.
Yes.
And that when something goes wrong, it's not the end.
Right.
It's the end, perhaps, of that situation.
Yeah.
But I have been fired, and I have quit other jobs, and I believed at the time, because my self-esteem was pretty good in the area of work, I believed that I would land on my feet, and I went out and I did.
Yes.
But again, you can't do it if you don't believe that you can do it.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, we both have been there and done that and survived it, and look at us today. Knock on wood. We did pretty well for ourselves, and we are here to share our information and our experiences with everybody else who are in that, they believe they are in a stuck place of they can move forward.
Right. So going back to projective identification, That happens if I say to you, you're stupid, or if I say to you, you know, what makes you think you can do that? Or if
What makes you think you're better than me?
yeah, yeah. Or if I say to you, what kind of a therapist do you think you are?
Yeah. Oh boy, I have heard that.
Yeah.
Do you call yourself a therapist?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So, so,
And I say yes, and I'm the best one.
so when people are expressing themselves, all they're expressing is their ideas and their perceptions, and you have a choice what you identify with. If you identify with the negative stuff that they're expressing about you, uh, you are going to, they're projecting something that's negative onto you, and you are eating or swallowing their idea, their projection. If you say, well, listen, you're entitled to your thoughts. If listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree. Now what? Okay, well now it's sort of like they've thrown out a bait to you on a fishing line, and you've chosen to swim by the bait.
Right.
And I actually use that analogy with clients when I say, you know, this person is doing this behavior, and every time this person does it, it's like they've thrown out the fishing line. There's the worm. You're swimming by, and you go, oh, food. And each time you go for the worm, you get caught on the hook, and then you're pulled up, and now you're wiggling on the line and going, how did I get here again?
Right.
Right? Because you don't realize that you had a part in it. Because the automatic response would be, oh, food, let's go get it, right?
Right.
Rather than, oh, I've been here, I've done that. No, I'm going to keep swimming this time.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's sort of a, that diagram that you and I designed. Remember the painting that we have?
Yes.
It's sort of like that. So maybe we can talk about that diagram the next time.
I walk down the street. I walk down the street by Portia Nelson.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I really like the fact that we have been able to put that on a board, and for our clients to see that. Of course, not now, but
Right.
When the pandemic wasn't here, we got lots of response to that, and that's exactly the projective identification.
Right.
Map.
Yeah. So I'll share a brief story about what happened with myself, and you're aware of it. I've shared it with you before. Basically, what happened was I developed the habit of not reaching out to my friends. My friends would reach out to me. And I won't go into why that I developed that. There were some things that went on in my psyche that caused me to do that. Oh, we got somebody coming in. But what happened was this person didn't. Oh, I just lost it.
Well, you were going to talk about your experiences of not reaching out to your friends.
I didn't reach out, and so my friends would reach out to me, and then one friend finally said to me, he said, it hurts my feelings that you don't call me. And I said, oh, I never knew that, and I've been friends with this guy a long time, and I said, basically, you call me, and so I didn't know that you needed me to call you. And he says, yeah, it hurts my feelings. And so I said, okay, and I thought about it a little bit. And then another friend told me the same thing. And when they told me, it didn't make me feel good about me. I didn't like what they were telling me. But I wanted to understand myself better because I wanted to improve myself. And so I took what they said, although I didn't like it and it didn't feel good. I took what they said and I internalized it. And I said, yeah, I can understand from their point of view how it would be hurtful. And as a result, I've made a conscious decision to start reaching out to them, and they see it and they appreciate it.
Right, right.
And so what I'm saying about this is if somebody is giving you a negative about yourself, and there may be some truth in it. You may feel defensive, but you don't have to respond defensively. You can listen and then say, let me think about that and evaluate it later on and say, if there's truth in it and I can accept that, I can use that to further my own growth and development.
And also in your case, your friendship has grown so much deeper since then.
Yes.
I have noticed that, and I'm really glad that you were able to take it in the way you did, right? And that's the thing, that's the key point, if we are able to bypass the meta communication sometimes.
Yeah, the hurt feelings.
The hurt feelings, and then listen to the content and see what's the message that's being broadcasted to us, and then understand the message and look at the message, not the anger, not the hurt, not the yelling at each other, and then respond to that. Many of the situation, many of the arguments will be diminished.
Right.
When an angry boss yells at us and tells us, "Oh, what happened to this and what happened to that?" We don't see their deadline. We don't see their responsibility towards the task that's not been done yet. We don't see many of that. And we believe that the yelling and the argument and everything is directly towards us personally, where in fact if we are hired at a place, we are to deliver the job that we are being assigned to, and if there are complications that prohibit us to get to the result by the deadline, we need to communicate that.
Absolutely.
And then same thing with with other relationships, we need to communicate what is not working.
Yeah, there's an old children's rhyme that fits what we're talking about perfectly, and that is, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
That's nice. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to you. I'd like to invite you to please join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. for another episode of Human Sexuality by us. And then the following Friday, another episode of Codependency, Relationships, Addictions, and Trauma. And let's see where we're going to get with all of that. Meanwhile, enjoy your holidays. Be safe, be well. And all you need is love.
All you need is love.
Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.